And I got to ask you, now that we know the killer is the mom, how did she physically kill Bill, lift his ass up, and then peg him into a door with a bunch of arrows?
Well, that's one of the many things that you just can't figure out from this movie, right? Like, there's a lot of... Once you know that the killer is the mom, a lot of things don't make any sense.
Yeah.
So, like, she, like, shot him full of arrows and then stuck him into a door.
Yeah, but he was like, remember on Halloween where, like, Michael, like, grabbed the guy and fucking stabbed him and he was there? Well, Michael's, like, powerful, like, he's strong. Like...
Yeah, she's no Michael Myers.
Yeah. My thing, like, my reason was because it was booked.
Well, of course, yeah, it was booked that way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, it's just like it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not right. Like, it should never have been booked that way, but it was.
Yeah.
Like, it's just made for shock value. Like, it's almost like they didn't know who the killer was going to be when they made the movie, but obviously they did.
So now Alice, she leaves all freaked out, goes back to the cabin, tries to lock up the cabin with some tying in the rope. She's looking around, says, what am I going to do? And then all of a sudden, Deborah's dead body goes flying through the window. So I think we have established that Mrs. Voorhees has supernatural human power.
She does. She's magical.
Which makes sense because Michael does too. So then we have this Jeep shows up. And this is when we actually meet Mrs. Voorhees. So Alice talks to her outside, and Mrs. Voorhees just says, yeah, I'm just a family friend of the Christies. And Alice is like freaking about all the dead people. Mrs. Voorhees is just basically blowing her off, like, oh, don't worry about it. It's just this place, it's cursed, and you're just going crazy. Don't worry about it. And she's like, no, there's somebody around here and stuff. You should be afraid. She's like, I'm never afraid. And then they go in, they see the dead Deborah. This is when Mrs. Voorhees is like, oh, she was so young, so pretty. And then now she's like slowly like turning. She's like, this place has just been cursed this whole time. Did you know that there was a boy who drowned here? And there's the camp counselors were paying attention to him at all. You know, like, he wasn't like the best swimmer. Like, we knew he didn't know how to swim that well. Okay? And they just let him fucking drown. All right?
I mean, I understand that I'm kind of an asshole, but I think this scene is funny. Like, when she's like, we know he's not the best swimmer.
Yeah, the best swimmer. I mean, come on. And then she goes on like, yeah, I was the cook here when all this was going down. And she's like, these fucking counselors and stuff, they just weren't paying attention at all like they should have been. Okay? And I just couldn't let them open up this place again because of all this shit that was going on. Now Alice is like, oh, wait a minute. Uh-oh. He's like, my sweet Jason. All right, they took them away from me. And then she tries to go attack Alice. And then she now doesn't have her supernatural powers because it's one-on-one combat. So now Alice gets the upper hand and gets away from her. Yeah. And this is when Alice goes into the Jeep. She sees the dead Marcy, and then she sees Steve hanging from a tree. Uh-oh. So apparently, like, Voorhees, there is a weird... So Mrs. Voorhees did all this fucking murder, like throw Steve on a tree, throw Brenda through some glass, moved all these dead bodies. Yet when she like comes up in the Jeep, she's like perfectly like in like... No, there's no stains on her shirt. There's nothing.
Yeah, none of this makes any sense.
And she did that all within 2 seconds.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever tried to throw a body through a window, but it's really not as easy as it sounds.
Well, I mean, like, okay, I can kind of like pass it because we'll talk about later. Jason has supernatural powers. Okay.
Jason is different.
So did his mom also have the same powers or no? Or is she just supposed to be like a normal lady?
She's a normal lady.
But then how does she do all this shit?
Jason has supernatural powers because he is not supposed to exist. And we'll talk about that next week. But Jason is not supposed to exist, and therefore he has supernatural powers. Mrs. Voorhees is just a normal person.
Well, she's strong as fuck, apparently. She threw fucking Steve.
She's apparently strong as fuck, yes.
Maybe she's a power lifter.
Maybe. Could be.